Hi, before we start the show, there are minor spoilers for Breaking Bad and Halt and Catch Fire. That being said, enjoy the show. Okay, welcome to Best Most. I'm your host, Jose Jogo Gonzalez. This is the podcast where we ask the questions, what is the best or what is the most? For example, we ask questions like, where is the best venue to watch a band? Or what is the most informative film that is not a documentary or instructional video? Before each episode, I ask our online community a question that our guests had chosen as our topic. I then go over the community answers with our guests, and we also discuss our own answers. You can check out and answer the questions on the best.most.pod Instagram page. Join the conversation. Today's guest is an old friend. He played lead guitar in the band Conductora, and now these days, he's a dad that kicks ass in jiu-jitsu. He has also supported this show with his humorous and insightful answers. I'm very happy to welcome to Best Most, John Estrada. Hey, John.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here to talk about all things music and pop culture.
So today we answer the question, what is the most rewatched comfort show? As always, our guest chooses the question. John Estrada, what made you choose this one?
The question sounded interesting because as a new dad, I don't know if there's any new dads or old dads out there, your TV watching kind of shortens. So you tend to try not to pick a show that you know that you won't finish, and then you try to pick shows that are short and sweet, or you just go back to those comfort rewatchable shows that you can kind of go at your own pace and kind of see again for the first time. So I thought this kind of resonated with me, especially with a show that I'll get into later, but kind of surprised me in terms of how much I identify with the subject matter, the characters, the vibe, everything. And happy to talk about that.
Cool. You have some community answers, so let's go into those. What do you got?
Yeah. So thanks to everyone who answered my post. It's always fun to kind of see this kind of thing because I know, Jose, when you post them, you kind of share the answers and you get to put them on the podcast. So I was really excited to see what you guys came up with. And some of the shows, I have to say, first off, I didn't get too many answers, and that's fine. I know people probably got to it late. But one show, I'll kind of start with the one that I never saw because I didn't have cable growing up, and that's from my buddy Eugene. He put Pete and Pete. He said, watch it as a kid and still a classic 30 years later. So I've never seen an episode, but I'll take his word for it because I think he's not the only one I've heard remember fond things about this type of show. Let's see, another buddy, Matt McClory, he put Bob's Burgers, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Broad City. I agree with all of these. I kind of fell out of Bob's Burgers after the first couple seasons, just from time. But those first early seasons, man, they're gold. Just great writing, great performance, and still quote some of those things today. Always Sunny, definitely. I was a late starter on that. I know that's been around forever. I don't know why it just was. And then once it was shown to me, I was like, oh my God, this show's like amazing. It's a good litmus test, though, I think, for certain types of humor. Kind of like I think you should
Yeah.
leave. But it's definitely makes sense as to why it's lasted so long. And then with his last answer, Broad City, I saw every episode, absolutely loved it. Could jump into any one of these episodes. Have like this crude sense of honesty and humor, and writing's brilliant, performances are brilliant. Actually, absolutely love that whole series. So agree with those. Um, Another answer from Andy Hong, King of the Hill. Definitely agree with this one. Um, Again, a show you can just jump into any episode and just kind of get taken away to that rural Texas vibe with interesting characters like Mike Judge. This is a spinoff of Beavis and Butthead, though, right? Like kind of the Hank Hill character. Do you know this?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Beavis and Butthead. But just to go really quick on your previous answers, I love those shows in general, like Broad City and Always Sunny. There's always that kind of like thing that people say, like, "Oh, you can't have this kind of humor these days." Always Sunny kind of throws that out the window. It proves that you can have fairly racy kind of crazy blue humor in a show and still be successful many seasons. Like how I don't even know how many seasons, like 10 seasons, 12 seasons, crazy amount of seasons. But yeah, I think they're great. Always Sunny's is good. Also, yeah, like Broad City is very smart, very modern with these like two hilarious women. But yeah, good
Did you
answers.
see which one did you see all of Bob's Burgers, all of Always Sunny, or all of Broad City, or are these just kind of shows you've jumped in and out of as well?
Kind of jumped in and out of. Kind of weird. Bob's Burgers. I feel like it's like infinite for some reason. Like the same episode has never been on twice.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of there hanging out in the orbit. Yeah. Um, good friend Yane, she put Friends. Now I know there's a lot of people who are into Friends. I remember when it came out, I remember the premise and watching the very first episode. I was, super young. Um, but for me personally, I think I was just like a year or two younger than the intended demographic than it was really made for, who kind of just rode with it until the very last season, who like, all the whole storylines and all that. But something interesting about Friends, I remember hearing on another podcast I listened to, The Rewatchables by Bill Simmons. I think he came up with the point how it's really kind of a stolen idea from Cameron Crowe's films, the Singles. I don't know if you ever heard of that film about the Seattle scene
Mm.
group of young 20 somethings in like the early 90s, where you just take a like, people in their 20s that work in a cafe, just kind of shine a spotlight in their lives and just go with it. I think it proved to be an effective formula.
Friends hang out together at a coffee shop. It's very simple, but people love that show. I think it's a test to the writing in general.
Yeah, just a crazy like moment in TV history, just launched certain careers. Like a lot of these actors really were, I think, struggling before Friends came along and just like launched them into a new era of their life. Like, Courtney Cox just did Ace Ventura before that, relatively, not known. Jennifer Aniston, I think she was on this comedy variety show called The Edge.
Was it on Fox?
Yes, it was. Newman
I
on
do kind
Seinfeld was
of.
also, yeah. Yeah, they had some pretty funny things.
She was also on in Leprechaun.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Classic horror film. Kaylee, my cousin, she put Beverly Hills 90210. It's funny. I tried rewatching that recently. Recently, I mean like in the last like 10 years. It's my dad brain. But it's funny when you watch it again as you're older, like it is such like one of the quintessential 90s shows out there. And I think it kind of pioneered sort of that drama led by characters that were in high school for like a nighttime series.
Mm.
Because everything else with like characters in high school was really kind of like an 80s like sitcom kind of thing, but this was like drama. And I think partly because the
Yeah.
actors were like 20 years older than the characters they played on average, but I mean it lasted for a pretty good while. I don't know if you caught any of that when it was out in the
Oh
90s.
yeah. We would watch that show as a family, which is kind of strange. My sister was 5 years older than me, and she would watch it, and I would just kind of be stuck watching it too. But I got into it. That and the show after that, which was Melrose Place, right after. But they both were very similar. One was just high school. One was just a apartment complex.
Good stuff. And then my final community answer is my buddy Joel. He put Futurama, and I think that's a great answer. This was like, for me, always on rotation at the house I rented when I was in college. It's just kind of like that feel good background show you can just watch at the end of a long night to come back from partying or something. You just like put on Adult Swim and you put that or home movies or whatever
Yeah.
was on rotation back then.
I never got into Futurama, but I know like so many people who really enjoy it, and I know the comedy is pretty solid. I mean, going off of the writers, right? It's the guys from The Simpsons, Matt Groening,
Yeah.
whatever his name is.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Those are my community answers, man. What you got?
Okay, I got. Let's see, Kiana. She chose Friends, another again very popular show that everyone loves. Let's see, Tristan, the audio guy. He chose The Office. John, do you like The Office? Are you into that at all?
Yeah, I didn't really see it when it was like first broadcast. I know it was getting a lot of buzz. Definitely knew who Steve Carell was, but it wasn't until COVID where I had the sort of time to just like really sit through it all and really appreciate like what it had to
Hmm.
offer. And yeah, I can definitely see how it had that appeal to a lot of people, especially its place on like pop culture.
For sure, yeah. Poisonous.culture slash Lex Hockey, who was on our show, she chose I Love Lucy. She said, I used to watch it a lot with my gram when I was younger. Classic.
That is classic. We can definitely talk more about I Love Lucy.
Jill gives me chills. She chose New Girl, short and sweet, quotable for many situations. She ate my camera sandwich. She chose That 70s Show and read Foreman's quotes. That's the
Mm.
reason she liked it. I want to say that was out around when I was in high school. And I feel like a lot of the guys who smoked weed really love that show. Um, and like kind of like little kind of rock dudes like that show a lot. I didn't really smoke weed in high school, so it wasn't as much my thing, but I think later on I would rewatch the episodes and thought it was pretty funny. Hello Becca, she chose Beverly Hills 90210. Again, really classic, really
Got some matches here.
dramatic. Yeah, for sure. Rosa, my wife, she chose Gilmore Girls because it's so wholesome and funny. It reminds me of my youth. And then she chose Mad Men because it's such a good show. It talks about women's rights, and the character Peggy plays a strong woman that goes against traditional 1960s female norms.
Wow. Confession, I have yet to see that series, but I will one day. I promise.
It's one of those shows I know I'll enjoy. Like I have no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Well, AMC puts out good content.
I agree. Edro Di Carmona, my brother, he chose Scrubs. Said, I think it's one of the closest to reality shows as it pertains to healthcare. Possibly. I mean, it's
I
very,
disagree.
yeah. I think it's pretty funny. I mean, it's a hilarious show from what I've seen, but it's like I don't think I think it's meant to be like a parody almost, right?
I think so, and I don't want to berate that person's answer. I think yeah, again, like we're supportive here, and there are some funny
Yeah.
things about it, but um, yeah, that's all I'll say.
Maybe like at that time or something. I know like
Right,
ER was definitely the main show that people would go watch for accuracy, I guess. If anything, I think Scrubs possibly to a certain extent. I think maybe just it's kind of like ER but with quips.
possibly. I mean, I think
So,
one of the best ones out now is The Pit. To plug that show, I think
oh
that's an
yeah,
amazing show.
dude, it took a little while to get into that like rhythm of the show. I initially was
Hmm.
like, I can't do this. And then
Right.
I think 3 shows in, we were sold.
Yeah.
So V de Leon, my sister, she chose Pippi Longstocking. Mr. Sam Slick, who was on the show too, he said, "For me, it's Twilight Zone. It just stands out from modern TV and is full of amazing stories." Totally agree. David
Great show.
Antonio Garcia, he chose King of Queens. He chose
That's a
King of
good one.
Queens. He said Kevin James is a lovable character we can all relate to.
That and Jerry Stiller.
Yeah, that dude's a legend, dude. Jerry Stiller is like effortlessly funny, like hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those are good answers. I think the community came out for you there for sure.
I have a few more.
Wow.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I know. I'm telling you. I think I told you, I'm like, dude, we have so many answers for this one. So let's see. Jason Chavez, he chose Frasier. The erudite succumbing to Foley, always funny, with no real stakes, makes an easy watch. I don't know what erudite means. I'm not that smart, but I'm guessing like a
It's like
very
of high class.
so yeah, a high class succumbing to Foley. Okay, yeah, I Frasier is a very smart show, and I have seen a few episodes. Pretty funny. I like the brother Niles. He's hilarious.
It's definitely a good show. I think it deserves like the following it had. It had good writing and just kind of a weird place in TV pop culture being an actual spin-off.
From Cheers.
Right.
My cousin Gabriel Cardenas, he chose Married with Children.
Good answer.
And Altered Vince, he chose Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He said a consistent show in quality, story, and character. Jokes still land again and again. Always puts a smile on my face. And then the last one is Nina. She chose Law and Order, SVU specifically. Good answers. So, speaking of, let's go into your answers. What do you got for us, John?
So I guess I'll preface this with like I don't really have like a great deal of like rewatchable shows in the last couple of years. Again, mostly because of having kids and your TV consumption dramatically drops. Um, but I think just some like come to mind if like you had to like give me like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, go. Like Seinfeld's one of them. It's kind of I guess like Always Sunny where people don't understand the nuance, but I kind of like fell into it hard in high school and just love jumping into like their world and just watching sort of like the characters like fly, especially the ones with Jerry Stiller. Those are like the good ones. Simpsons first seven-ish seasons. That was like a huge part of like my quote vocabulary. I won't get into any of this one, but it's kind of like how it's how you make friends. It's how friendships form. With like certain Simpson quotes pertaining to situations. Like never gets old. I'm probably dating myself too, because I like young kids are like, huh? Uh,
It's still on.
well, so that's the thing. I had to put like first like seven-ish, 8 seasons, because then after that,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I don't care what happened, and the fact that they continue to make them, that's fine. They have every right to do that. But I've tried many seasons after that to get into it. I'm just like, no, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah. It goes into like Family Guy territory too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's what happened. They try to do Family Guy, and I think they had a lot to compete with too. They had to compete with Family Guy and South Park, and the field got pretty big. American Dad, another one. Just kind of rounding out my list here. Just from being a kid and like I don't know, falling asleep to it because I didn't get it, but you just had this like vibe of like, hey, it's a feel good aura. It was MASH, just like the canned laughter, Alan Alda being like himself with the ensemble cast that it was and the funny situations. Then it has that subtle like 2 minutes of seriousness to like kind of send home the moral of the episode, but then everything's all well and silly again. Like those are kind of like the ones I remember like thinking of kind of like feel good, like bingeable, rewatchable shows. So that's my rapid fire list. I don't know if I should get into it. Should I get into the
Yeah.
big ones now?
Well, let's see. So, really quick, I feel like MASH, that's a fucking deep cut. I feel like MASH is one of those shows that anyone I've talked to as a kid were like, "What the hell is MASH?" Because like it came on fairly late. I think maybe on I don't even know what day it was on, like Saturday or something like that.
I mean, I can't tell you the days, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it would come on like after everything else that everybody wanted to watch was finished, and after the
That
news.
part's true. Yeah, it's when you're supposed to go to sleep that it came on.
Yeah, and I remember like watching it. It's a pretty deep show, dude. I mean, like there's a lot of like stuff on that show that was very serious subject matter with some humor, but like I think it was the right amount of humor to kind of complement the subject matter. But I remember watching that show as a kid and thinking like don't know if I fully understand this, but I know this is amazing. Um, but it's kind of a crazy thing that not a lot of younger people like or people I guess our age or even around that age
Right.
haven't never seen MASH. I think it's great. So yeah, that's a
You know,
cool
yeah,
choice.
I'll add to that because, I just started reading a book. I haven't made my way through most of it, but it's really good. I recommend it. It's called About Face by David Hackworth. And he is I think he retired as like a lieutenant colonel, but anyways, it's called About Face, and it starts with his life entering World War II right as it ended. So like kind of like I want to say late 45, early 1946. Like he was finally get old enough to enlist, and he spent a couple of years in Italy on the the border of what's now like Yugoslavia, that whole area, and then he went to Korea. And as you know, MASH is about the Korean War, and just him like describing his situation in
Yeah,
Korea, just like pretty crazy and brutal. MASH came out during the Vietnam War, and it's got all these sort of messages about war. And I thought, like, what a brilliant way to sort of like critique current times by echoing a piece of history like 20ish years before the times that are going on right now. And I think that's why it's popular. Another thing, I didn't know it was based off of a movie. There was a movie made, and then they did the TV show. So I have one more. Forgot it's like written low in my notes. Arrested Development, the first three seasons. such a great show to just jump into. It's so effortlessly written and acted, and the narration, the everything is just like I love that show.
I've heard it's amazing, and I want to watch it. I know like Ron Howard does the narration.
If I know you, you're gonna love all of it.
Yeah, I like the fact that Michael Cera's character's name is George Michael,
Yes.
and every clip I've seen of that show is hilarious. So I'm sure it will.
It's a little dated, but still funny.
Cool. So let's
Yeah.
see. What are your main choices?
So I kind of went like a twofer here. I guess kind of pivoting off of MASH. One show that I like, and it kind of has to deal with like World War II, because my grandfather, he was in World War II, second wave of D-Day, along with my great uncle. And funny kind of segue, my great uncle was actually in a World War II anniversary episode of Oliver North's War Stories.
Hmm,
But that was like
that's cool.
almost, gosh, yeah, it was almost like 20 years ago. Yeah, like they took him back to Germany or Normandy, I forget, and like he survived some like crazy battle where he was on a hill surrounded by like tanks, and he was just like telling Oliver North how like, yeah, we are there for like 3 days, we didn't eat, every time the tanks would fire us, like guys were crying. Or I was just like straight up, I was like, I've never heard this story before, just very 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 real sort of commentary. But my answer is also based off a book written by an author named Stephen Ambrose, and if I said that, I think some of you probably might know what I'm referring to, but it's I want to say it's a 9 episode miniseries that HBO did in early 2000s called Band of Brothers, and yeah, great show.
I've heard only good things. Yeah, my dad's a military guy, and I think you've seen it, and he thought it was really
Yeah,
really amazing.
yeah, because I think the book, I've read the book as well, and it was a great exercise in collecting oral histories of the World War II veterans who came back home to kind of detail their experiences. I guess kind of like through watching that kind of like keeps the memory alive of like my grandfather and the spirit of like all the other people who went through that, either in the European theater, the Pacific theater. But just great writing and the character development, expertly casted by guys who came in. I think they actually did, I don't know how long they did, a real boot camp for the actors to go through to understand what the soldiers did back then, to like learn how like the weaponry worked, how the tactics worked, how the units moved through combat, so that when it came time to sort of act the scenes out, like you really believe the action that's going on. So again, just a fantastic show. I don't watch it too often. I try to pop it in around D-Day, if I can, or like it's kind of like a reminder, like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, it's time to watch this one thing that happened in history where Americans didn't like Nazis. Can't believe I
yeah,
have to say that sentence as a reminder, but um
yeah. It should be a given.
yeah.
Seems to connect you to your grandfather, so that's cool.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. And very complex man. It was interesting when he passed away in 2000. They did like the 21 gun salute and gave the flag to, I think they gave it to my mom because she was like the next of kin. But it
Mm.
got me thinking, I should probably try. I've been dabbling in like some screenwriting ideas or like movie ideas, but I think it'd be a good miniseries to kind of build on that, to talk about sort of his experience as like a Mexican American man from the Great Depression, really boy, uh, you know, and just by sheer luck and happenstance being drafted into the military, because he didn't really have a, how should I say this? He wasn't really doing well, in terms of employment. I think he probably started his drinking problem back then, but then got drafted with so many other men, and then before he knew it, was sent to Europe. Probably saw more than he thought he was going to see. I think there's a story, I have to figure it out, but he went AWOL, or got charged with AWOL because I think he didn't report in time. Probably because he might have been drinking. I don't know. Is how the story goes. But uh,
Yeah.
they then they got into some sort of combat action, and he stepped up and I guess did a lot to not only get his charge dismissed, but I think he got a promotion out of it. I never found out what it was, but he did come back with some Purple Hearts and some other medals. But according to my mom, he didn't really talk about it that much, and just spent the rest of his life, I think, with PTSD and suffering from alcoholism, which I think now we know more about. But back then, it kind of was just that's sort of one rewatchable. that I kind of like go through. But my next, I guess, rewatchable comfort show, I'll kind of set up and this show's newer, I should say. It's within the last 10 years or so that it came out. And, I work in IT. That's kind of how I make my money, feed myself. And I've been doing it for a really long time.
Mhm.
Didn't really plan that in college, but I guess, playing video games helped me out to get really good at sort of understanding computers in a way. Kind of like how I hacked into your show.
Yeah, it does
um,
not surprise me that you work in IT.
Going back to the TV show, kind of relates to that, kind of being around people in tech. It's about it's kind of like a ragtag of people in the 1980s who kind of just through happenstance come together to make the first portable computer. And I know it sounds kind of like a so what kind of plot point, but when I saw it, it just like spoke to me.
Mhm.
And just the how it was executed and acted just glued me in. Probably could have helped that I watched it through COVID as well. So it's like, what else was I going to do while I was working from home? But the show is on AMC. It's called Halt and Catch Fire. I want to say it lasted 4 or 5 seasons, but again, as soon as I saw it, I just like locked in. It's weird for a period piece where it's about something that eventually happens. It's also pretty much fictional. Like it's not about anyone real, but
Mhm.
it does a good job of jumping on the timelines of what was real. Like they mention a lot of years where like Apple and Microsoft or like an IBM are trying to assert their like dominance in the industry. But
Yeah.
what the show does without giving too much away, and I think was like brilliant, is that it takes these characters through time jumps in the story where it kind of shows
Mhm.
like where these characters end up in sort of the evolution of technology. And but not to ruin it, they do end sort of in the mid 90s, but for a show to cover a storyline from 1980 or 1981 to like 1995, not a lot of shows can do that. And I like how they did that, and they kind of wrapped it with a nice bow.
Both of your answers, I would say, like, except Band of Brothers, I think it's a pretty popular show, I think. But like Halt and Catch Fire, it's one of those shows I would have not known. But like with episodes, people can kind of be keyed into like new things that they would have not have ever encountered on their own. So I think that's kind of cool.
I mean, I know I pitched it at least two, 3 times to my friends. I'm like, you gotta see it, and some of them have actually started. And some of them are honest, and I take no offense. They're like, yeah, I just couldn't understand it, and then I'm like, that's totally fine. Some people who do, you kind of find them, and you just sort of like geek out with like the way that it sort of like fleshes out like the characters, because it's really a show about the characters, not so much the technology. Like again, as I said, like the technology is what's going to happen, but it's fascinating to see the characters sort of intertwine with it and sort of like have this sort of push and pull with their own motives. Like it's kind of weird. There's like not really a villain. I mean, there are villains in the show. You need that to like make a story work, but
Yeah,
it's really themselves and like their own inhibitions or their obsessions and sort of like where they want to go in their own life and how technology sort of is like what their life is. Like the first season has this great line, and I think whoever is the screenwriter who wrote this line is a genius. And the line is, computers aren't the thing, they're the thing that gets us to the thing. And I think that was like,
oh,
I
okay.
think that's probably
That's pretty cool.
what hooked me on the show because, a lot of times, especially nowadays, it's like with this AI apocalypse at our doorstep, um, it is computers are the thing, right? To a degree. But this show, which was kind of written, almost 15 years ago, 10 years ago, reminds us that the true pioneers saw computers for what they could be, not for like what they are and how they are to like investors and these other like corporate users and so forth. They mention IBM a lot. I guess IBM's kind of the de facto enemy to a degree on like the business side, sort of like in the external story. But like in the internal story of like all the characters and their own like flaws, it's like really themselves.
That's cool. Kind of. So it's kind of like Titanic in a way, the movie Titanic, where this thing's happening that you know it's going to happen in history. It's real, and then you have like this whole other story in a way of these characters that kind of keeps it compelling. Um, Nudity, all that stuff too.
You know what? Yeah, there's some light sex in *Halt and Catch Fire*. Light. Season 1 mostly.
Are those your answers?
Yeah, I think that's, after some like diligent thought, not to sort of like take over the entire episode. Yeah, I'll just put my answers as those two. But actually, there is actually one more. There is one more that I just want to sort of like round out with. It's not my answer per se, but I do think this deserves discussion as sort of like the ultimate rewatchable,
Hmm.
sort of like the first and maybe the greatest. And I did want to touch on that if we have like a minute or two.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I do think it's I Love Lucy. And
Okay.
it's that because, it's one of the first like successful TV sitcoms, and it lasted decades in terms of like keeping its main audience, meeting new audiences throughout the 70s and 80s, because we're both 80s kids, right? And you remember the first time you started
That's right.
seeing it in black and white, and it kind of just was. It was just a TV show you fell into. It's easy to watch,
Yeah.
got arguably pretty good music, which I'll, get
Yeah.
into like maybe in another podcast soon, but it's just like a really interesting show.
Yeah. There's like a few shows that I remember watching as a kid when you're sick, and I think I Love Lucy was one of those shows. In a way, that kind of almost created a comfort in its own, like being sick and you're home from school and you're having like chicken noodle soup or whatever, and then watching I Love Lucy or whatever, right?
Sure.
But I do think, yeah, that show is hilarious, dude. It's so hilarious. Uh, but it's also just time capsule,
Right.
and that's what's interesting about it too. I think Lucille Ball was a genius, iconic. Ricky Ricardo had amazing hair, and he was really funny too. Uh,
Desi Arnaz.
uh, Desi Arnaz, and I think that Fred and Ethel Mertz were casted interestingly. I think I remember hearing that who played Ethel Mertz? Was it
Vivian
is it
Vance.
Vivian? Yeah, Vivian Vance. They told her don't lose a lot of weight because she would be too pretty or something.
It's like the urban legend how they address the her appearance a certain way to contrast with Lucille Ball, or how her and William Frawley, who played Ed, really did hate each other offset. So that's why their chemistry was actually believable whenever they would sort of like
Yeah,
banter back and forth.
that's
Yeah, I mean that
perfect.
exactly. Like and it is like stuff like that. I think is what sort of adds to the lore behind the camera that makes the watching experience for future generations like that much more interesting. Like honestly, when was the last time you actually sat through an episode?
It's been a while. I want to
Yeah,
say like shit, like 15 years, 16 years, maybe more.
yeah. I watched a couple years back, definitely in the last like 3 or 4 years. And yes, it's interesting how ahead of the times it was. Is it dated? Of course, but again, the way it sort of addresses like, husband wife relationships, the the fact that you have an interracial couple technically on screen. You hear Spanish on the show. It's got like
Uh-huh.
good live music. Sometimes you can see Desi Arnaz play, and he is a real musician. And another thing too, it invented the three camera setup for like sitcoms, because before then it was just kind of like a single static camera or two cameras, But I think it was Desi's idea to have like three cameras at the same time to kind of like zoom in, zoom out, and sort of like cut the angles to like get the reaction of like Lucy's face, or
Yeah,
Ricky's exasperations, to add to the comedic effect. So
that's cool.
I swear I'll stop.
No, those are I really liked that answer too as well. I mean, like I said, it's one of those shows that I think everyone should watch, and I still think it holds up, I'm sure. Again, I haven't seen 15 years, but I have seen like little bits and pieces of it here and there. So, my answers for the best comfort show, I guess I'll do the same way you did it. My honorable mentions were anything Beavis and Butthead. It
Nice.
sounds kind of silly. Yeah, it's kind of silly, but like my brother and I, when we were kids, we would go to my dad's house because my parents were divorced. We go to my dad's house, and my dad had cable, so we would watch Beavis and Butthead all the time. And it's one of those shows that was like so. stupid in the best way, and I don't know, like smart in a certain way too as well. But something about Beavis and Butthead just like really, even the new episodes, I watched every season
Oh, it's
of the newer
back?
episodes. Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus, I think.
Oh, wow.
So freaking good, dude.
Wait, so
Yeah,
am I to understand you grew up without cable television in your household or in
for the
our
most
household?
part, yeah,
Yeah, that's like
yeah,
me. I did not have cable
yeah,
growing up, so a lot of the TV shows you kind of had to find on network TV or at a family member's house that did have cable or a friend's house.
yeah. You go and you're like someone who has cable. You just kind of platen yourself in front of their TV, and you're like, "Let's do this. I gotta catch up."
I know that
But
feeling.
But what was cool is that when my parents had when my mom or my stepdad would have like a little bit more cash, we would have cable for like a few months, and I'd be like, "Oh, sweet."
Huh.
We'd have it here and there, and then we'd have like preview channels, and we'd watch other cool things. But my dad always had it, so when I'd go over there, we'd watch Beavis and Butthead and all that stuff. Another honorable mention is Twilight Zone. I love Twilight Zone, dude. It is like it's so amazing, and I'm not going to go too much into it because just for one of my own reasons, you'll see in possible future episodes. But Twilight Zone is so good. It's a comfort show for me. I can go into any episode, and I've seen I think almost all of them, if not all of them, and still enjoy it and get something new out of it. I mean, whether I'm just watching the acting, like someone act their asses off, it's almost like a play. Like Twilight Zone is like a play to me, and yeah, very comforting.
Very good. Yeah, no, you're definitely spot on. Like I think if I'm not mistaken, it's a show where a lot of eventual like would be Hollywood legends sort of got their start in. And then, you're right in terms of the format. It's almost like, yeah, it's a teleplay. The
Mhm.
narration by Rod Sterling at the end, just you can't recreate that.
My main answer is Breaking Bad. So I'm going to give you a few different facts.
Go, do it.
It ran for 5 seasons, 62 total episodes. Most notably starred Bryan Cranston, who played Walter White, Aaron Paul, who played Jesse Pinkman, Anna Gunn played Skylar White, Dean Joseph Norris played DEA agent Hank Schrader, Bob Odenkirk, Saul Goodman, and Giancarlo Esposito played Gustavo Fring, and many more amazing actors. There were two spin-offs after the show ended. First one was Better Call Saul, which started 2015 and it ran to 2022. And then El Camino, which came out in 2019. Awards, widely recognized as one of the most acclaimed shows in history with 92 industry awards won and 248 nominations. Did you ever get into Breaking Bad?
Definitely. That was one where I think I started maybe a season late when they were broadcast. And then once I caught up, I was watching them as they came out. And to the point where, yeah, the final season, we were just waiting and salivating for the
Mm.
episodes to get to the very final one. I think I was at a party for the final episode for
Oh,
the
cool.
to see Walt White get his ultimate revenge.
Like a watch party?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's cool. I thought you were like at a party and you're like, fuck, I gotta
No,
get out of here. I gotta watch this
no.
episode.
Bye. No, like a
Yeah.
sports fan. No, no, it was a watch party and it was wasn't it pre-COVID? I want to say it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was
Different
it ended
times.
a while back. Yeah, probably
Yeah,
pre-COVID, yeah. Fellini was an episode that ended everything in the best way possible, in my opinion, and I think it was probably one of the best endings to any show ever. I was late to the party for Breaking Bad. My friend Daniel Farrow D, what up Farrow D? He showed me like some DVDs of a few seasons, and we would watch it. Dude, in that episode that Jane dies, some overdose. Oh gosh, I've rewatched that episode a few times, and then also just rewatched it on YouTube, and it's so emotional. It's a huge turn for Walt when he's just watching her die, choked to death,
right.
and you just see like, oh damn, he's going through a deep dive into this dark hole of himself. But so fucking good.
I just rewatched it. I want to say 3-ish years ago. I don't know if I made it through. I'll explain why. I think I started rewatching it when my first kid was born, and you're just up late, because there's just no sleep, and I'm just like, well, I might as well watch something. And I don't know why I started watching Breaking Bad. And again, it's one of those shows that it wasn't like I was, oh, I got to see it again. I was like, yeah, I'll put it on. I'll watch I think it was like, I'll watch the pilot. Like 3 weeks later, I'm like
Yeah.
season 4, just like he's got the money in the public storage. And Skylar's saying, look how much we have, and then
Oh
after
man,
that,
it's like that though. Yeah, my wife and I rewatched the whole thing at the early part of our relationship. We were like, "Hey, let's rewatch this." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
hell yeah, dude." And I think we didn't have like a couch. It was when we first moved into our old apartment, and we were
yeah,
like just sitting on the floor on a blanket, got food, and such a good memory too.
nice.
Yeah, I love that show, and I think that's why it's also speaks to me a little bit because of that. Like, there's also a little. It's such a long journey for that show that there's all these
Yeah,
different parts of my life that kind of connected to him too.
definitely. And let's talk
But
about the spinoffs
yeah,
real quick. Like,
oh yeah,
I, I'll go first real quick. I
yeah,
started Better Call Saul. Great show. I need to finish it, but just I thought it wasn't going to be that good. But the fact that it lasted so long, Bob Odenkirk is just a great actor. I mean, everyone else in that is amazing as well. So with the Bob Odenkirk, Michael McKean is in that, right? From Saturday Night Live,
yeah. Spinal Tap, all that.
Spinal Tap, yeah. El Camino. That one I think divides a lot of people. Definitely had some friends who thought it sucked. I think it was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Is it like the best out of the three? No, but I thought that they did a great service to the character of Jesse, because I'll say at the end of the series finale, when you see Jesse like drive away, you're kind of left like wondering like, well, where did he go? And the fact that El Camino like
Yeah,
gave him like that lead, and I thought Aaron Paul crushed it. Was very very well
yeah.
done, and I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, El Camino was really good. I got to rewatch that, but I remember like I thought it was a pretty satisfying end to Jesse's character or continuation to Jesse's character. Better Call Saul. Yeah, I feel like it started off pretty kind of okay, but ramped up towards the later seasons. I thought the ending to Better Call Saul was also really good, which you haven't seen, so I'm not going to get into. But I feel like Bob Odenkirk showed his chops in that whole show. Yeah, but yeah, great show. Have you seen the new show by Gilligan? I forgot his first name.
Pluribus?
Yeah, have you seen it?
No, I hear good things though.
It's good. It's really good. I'd
Nice.
recommend that. Community. Check it out. So anyways, let's get to our sponsor, Pluribus. Um, check it out. I'm kidding. All right, so that has been our episode. Did you have fun, John?
I had a great time. I probably could have mentioned more shows, but I think now's a good time to end it for the listeners.
John's going to join us for the next episode too, as well, which is the best TV theme song. And then, would you like to plug anything or give any shout outs?
No, just shout out to my band, Conductora. We're still around. I think most of us haven't been able to sort of get together and do more shows and write because we're starting families. But the joke is that all of our kids are going to be the next iteration of the band. But we are definitely
That's cool.
planning to finish the recording we started of February of 2020 before COVID shut the world down. And we're just kind of incrementally doing that. And yeah,
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Daisy and Jen.
definitely.
Um, cool. And thank you to our online community for taking the time to answer the questions on the best.most.pod Instagram page. You guys help expand the conversations of the show and give them lots of depth. Also, thank you for listening. And remember, there are no guilty pleasures when it comes to music, movies, and all art preferences. Like what you love and enjoy what you enjoy. That connection is such a gift. Until the next time, take care and take care of each other. Bye bye.